I would like to present the pottery that was actually included in my PhD dissertation entitled The Monastic Culture of Monks from Western Thebes from 4th to 10th century AD. And well, I will be focusing more on the monastery of St. Phoibammon, where I have been working for last several years. So let me briefly introduce you with the area and the historical background. So we are obviously in the western Theban region, which is located in the Upper Egypt, across Luxor on the west bank of the Nile. And this, we can observe in this region a major shift that occurred in the, let's say, beginning of 5th century AD with the advent of Christian anchorites. And this area that was previously used as a necropolis was turned into, let's say, a real or quasi-real monastic city. And the first very important monastery was built at the beginning of 5th century, deep in the desert, farther to the southern side of Western Thebes. And probably due to harsh environmental condition, it was moved into the center of Western Thebes at the end of 6th century. And that is how the second monastery of St. Phoibammon was established by the bishop of Hermontis, Abraham, and it was built within the temple of Hatshepsut. Unfortunately, the archaeological context is almost completely lost because the excavation that were carried out by Edward Neville at the end of 19th century were rather focusing on pharaonic material and the temple itself. So all the monastery was completely dismantled by Edward Neville, and now we can only reconstruct the architectural layer of this monastery by using the archival photographs or archival plans that were luckily made. So this was actually the main challenge that I had to face during my studies, because I did not have undisturbed archaeological layers, and all the pottery came actually mostly from the chapel of Hatshepsut, which is located in the upper terrace in the southern part of the upper terrace of the temple of Hatshepsut. And they were found within the third intermediate tomb shafts that were cut underneath the chapel of Hatshepsut. And let's say that this filling was made by the previous excavators somewhere between 19th and early 20th century. They were just simply, filling the shafts with the rubbish and all the material that they treated as unworthy or that was not interesting to them. So mostly also late antique materials that could be somehow connected with the monastery of St. Phoibammon. So this was actually one of the main challenges that I had to face, and I cannot present any specific dating, and I cannot link the pottery with the specific rooms within the monastery. We can only say that the pottery that I will be presenting here was probably used by the monks somewhere between the end of 6th century and the second half of 8th century AD. So I was in my PhD, I was focusing also on other category of objects, but for the purpose of this workshop, I will be talking only about pottery. And here we have a map that was made for the purpose of my PhD dissertation with all the monastic sites that I included in my database. And here we have all the sites that have a confirmed presence of pottery and also mud stoppers. Why I am talking about mud stoppers right now also, because mud stoppers are linked to the transport containers, and they have also some very interesting statistics. We can make very interesting statistics out of mud stoppers, because For example, in the case of Monastery of St. Phoibammon, we have at least 200 mud stoppers, which fit perfectly into the typical late Roman 7 amphoras. So generally in the Monastery of St. Phoibammon, late Roman 7 amphoras or amphores Hatshepsut outnumbered other containers, and these vessels were made from Nile clay, served as I said before, as wine containers. That is why they were covered inside with resin coatings that reduce the natural moisture absorbing properties of the fired clay. The popularity of late Roman 7 amphoras also indicates increased contacts with production centers located along the Nile Valley in the Middle or Upper Egypt, where this type of amphoras were fired. In case of other sites in Western Thebes, this data is unfortunately quite limited because I had to use all the I was gaining this information from the published material or even sometimes from unpublished reports, but still we have a very similar picture generally in Western Thebes. So the most popular amphora is the late Roman 7 amphora, and also the Suda Aswan amphora that was actually an imitation of Aswan amphora, but made from Nile clay. And regarding the imports in Western Thebes, the most popular ones were found in the Hermitage in MMA 1152, and they were mostly represented by African amphoras and also Aegean amphoras. And we have a very limited, but as you can see, we have very limited data regarding other monastic sites in Western Thebes. So within my examination of tableware, most notable is the Egyptian red slipware A, which was made from kaolin clay somewhere in the Aswan region. It is possible that the same workshop was also responsible for producing white slipware, which is a very characteristic type of tableware made from pink clay, but with a very whitish or pale engobe on the surface. And what's also interesting that generally in previous older publication, this white slipware tends to be more prevalent in archaeological context dating to 9th or even 10th century AD. In addition to open forms, I encountered various closed forms such as pitchers, kulas, bottles, and flasks, often linked to pilgrims. Among these, one object requires our special attention. It is a small globular flask featuring a linen loop handle and a neck that was sealed with a fragment of a Coptic manuscript. An identical flask was found in the monastery of Paulos, which is actually located nearby the monastery of St. Phoibammon. And this flask from the monastery of Paulos was found within the group of other items preserved in an intact deposit dating to the end of 8th century. What is also very interesting that the production of this flask has been verified in Fustat, which is approximately 700 kilometers from the north of to the north of Western Thebes. And in this area in Fustat, a special kiln dating to the 9th century was discovered, surrounded by a concentration of almost exact flasks. Considering this valuable insight, it is possible to associate this type of flask not with the monastic habitation itself, but rather with the later pilgrimage movement that was very common in this area. And we know that because, for example, after the monastery of St. Phoibammon was abandoned at the end of 8th century AD, we have still very many dipinti and graffiti that are post-dating the abandonment, and the last dated dipinto is actually dated to the early 13th century AD. In other monastic sites in Western Thebes, we can observe a similar situation. So there is a high popularity of Egyptian red slipware A or B and other Nile clay tableware. The ceramics in this category were made from Nile clay only in case of the monastery of St. Phoibammon, specifically of the B1 or B2 type, according to the Vienna system, known for their low to medium porosity. Prevalent with this set are cookers and cooking pots, defined by their distinctive globular shape with a rounded base, facilitating placement for stoves. Typically, the surface of these vessels lacks decoration. However, simple monochrome motifs do occasionally appear, featuring elements such as dots, stripes, or ribbons. And what is also characteristic for that category is that most of the vessels in this group were covered, the outer surfaces of these vessels were covered in soot. Unfortunately, we do not have much data coming from other monastic sites in Western Thebes, but we know that there were at least 365 kitchenware in the aforementioned Hermitage MMA 1152 and at least 230 in the Temple of Seti in Gurna. The utility ware assemblage discovered in Deir Bahari primarily comprises painted storage jars fired from Nile clay, and additionally among the findings are fired oval basins which likely served various functions, including grain storage or, for example, soaking the palm leaf sheet fibers, which was a crucial step in the subsequent production of organic ropes. And this type of economic activity was very popular among monks in the Western Thebes. Notably, our recent excavations have yielded objects closely associated with these aforementioned oval basins. These items consist of large handmade covers crafted from exceptionally brittle clay with a centrally located handle. The front surface of these covers bears painted decorations, such as depictions of female figures and birds, and also finger imprints. Representation of females included female heads were quite frequent in Coptic art. In the monastery, for example, in the monastery of San Jeremiah in Saqqara, a painting showed several female heads in a row, which were interpreted by scholars as personifications of virtues. On the other sides in Western Thebes, huge storage vessels called soma, made from dry mud, were encountered. And what is interesting that one of such grain bins was, for example, found in the monastery of Syriacus, that is the biggest one. And according to my calculations, it could hold over 800 liters, that is 23 artabas of grain. And because one artaba is approximately 30 kilos of flour, this quantity was enough to meet the caloric needs of an average adult man for around 3 years. It means also that, for example, 5 such storage bins could feed the entire monastic community living in the monastery of Paulos for approximately 100 days. And why I'm referring to the monastery of Paulos, because we have some data, archaeological data, that confirm that in this monastery we had at least 66 up to 70 monks living in the same time. Regarding the pottery production, which played a pivotal role in both consumption and food production, it is noteworthy that only 3 sites confirm the presence of pottery kilns. The Temple of Seti, the first in Gurna, housed at least 10 pottery kilns. While these kilns may have operated simultaneously, they were not designed for mass production, but rather aimed at meeting the needs of the local population, including the monks, but not only. Another kiln was situated outside the tomb K9311, which was actually a part of the monastery of the aforementioned monastery of Paulos. And the last one was documented by the French archaeologists in the Valley of the Queens. In all 3 cases, these kilns were used in a limited capacity, primarily serving the monks living in the monastery of Paulos or anchorites associated with the Laura of Deir Rumi in the Valley of the Queens. As indicated in the chart, a concurrently operating kilns in Gurna were capable of producing approximately 800 cooking pots per day. Based on ethnographic data and other plausible reconstructions, it was assumed that the vessels were stacked inside the kiln in 4 layers. It is essential to keep in mind that these kilns primarily served for firing a simple 9 clay tableware or kitchenware and were not adapted to produce any type of, for example, transport container. And for the purpose of my research, I assume that the local workshops were those located within 10 kilometers from the center of Western Thebes, that is Deir Bahari. So this area is marked with the black circle. Moreover, ethnographic studies of traditional pottery workshops in different parts of the world suggest that the average potter sourced clay within 4 to 5 kilometers from his workshop. And these areas are marked with red, blue, and green circles. Following this argument, we may propose that the local Theban market intertwined with nearby villages like Petemut, so Medamut, Ape and Ne, Coptic Ape and Ne, so Luxor and Karnak, or even Hermontis, assuming that they were some other pottery workshop, of course. And other types of vessel had to be imported from different regions of Egypt. This primarily concerned amphora and thin-walled tableware, such as Egyptian red slipware A and white slipware. The production of late Roman 7 amphoras was concentrated in central and southern Egypt, while the northern region specialized in amphora with Mediterranean origins like amphora Egyptian 5 to 6 and amphora Egyptian 8. Imitations of African amphora documented only in the monastery of Paulos were produced in Karatel Tub in Baharia Oasis. And this location is not should not be surprising because it lies directly on the route, on the trade route between the Africa Proconsularis, where the original African amphoras were produced, and the Upper Egypt, or generally Egypt. Generally, foreign imports were less frequent in Western Thebes compared to other archaeological sites closer to the Mediterranean Sea. And it was probably largely influenced by economic factors and logistics. For instance, the journey by camel from Baharia Oasis took approximately 10 days, while the trip from Philoxenite near Alexandria, involving camel and boat transport, extending to around 20 days. So generally what we can see out of this material, that we have some, let's say, Egyptocentric tendencies towards the material that was used by monks, and with the top 3 most popular containers to be produced in Egypt. So late Roman 7 amphoras, pseudo Aswan amphoras, and also Aswan amphoras deriving from the Aswan region. And we have also the high number of transport containers. It's obviously connected with the high demand for wine, which is not surprising because wine was used in very different religious celebrations in the monasteries. And what is also very significant, that we have a low number of imports. For example, in late antique Alexandria, between 70 to 80% of amphoras were imports. So that there is a huge difference between the, let's say, the northern part and the monastic region in Western Thebes. And what is also quite significant is that there was only a limited local production that was mainly concerning a simple table and kitchenware. So thank you.